The main character's journey kicks off in a classroom, where he sits quietly, tuning out his classmates' pointless talk. Suddenly, the door swings open, and a guy with a cocky grin steps inside. His friends immediately greet him as boss, and a girl asks about his sales. The smug guy acts like the answer should be obvious as he proudly announces he made 48 million won in just 1 month. The girl is stunned, and his friends excitedly ask if he's planning a party. He assures them that they'll be drinking all night this time. Everyone sounds thrilled, but out of nowhere, the guy's expression changes. He walks up to the protagonist and slams Park's head against the desk, making his message loud and clear. He keeps doing it, reminding Park to buy something next time or he'll regret it. Park takes it all without saying a word, forcing himself to stay calm. The onlookers warn the arrogant bully to stop before he gets in trouble, but he just laughs, saying the teachers are corrupt and a little bribe can fix anything. Ignoring any consequences, he continues beating Park down. Park shoots him a cold stare, but the bully doesn't pick up on it and keeps taunting him. The bully knows Park can't go to the police either since he's completely out of cash. He keeps pushing him, but Park's frustration starts to show on his face. Park can never erase the memories of 2 years ago. At that time, a notorious high school gang dominated national headlines. They were known as Nexus. Park was the only one daring enough to challenge their leader, Chonsu Kim, all alone. Just when Park thought it was all over, things took a turn for the worse. The gang's minions filed a lawsuit against him. The false but well-planned evidence worked against him, and he ended up losing the case. His father had to give up his beloved gym just to gather the settlement money. Park was filled with guilt and frustration. He made a vow never to use his fists again. His father forgave him and told him not to dwell on it, but Park was crushed. That's when he realized that without money, he was powerless. On his way home, 3 men recognize him as Han-Jun Park, the guy who once fought the infamous gang. One of them walks up to Park. A bald, muscular thug flashes his ring and drags him into a shady alley. Without any reason, the thug starts attacking Park. He mocks him for being weak, but Park refuses to fight back. The thug finds it hard to believe that such a coward stood up to Nexus. He keeps kicking Park and even brings up his father. That's when Park grabs his foot and gives him an ice-cold, terrifying glare. The thug is thrown off, but Park quickly apologizes and lets go. The gang members break into a nervous sweat. One of them is stunned, realizing that his body froze up completely. He can't believe it, but he admits that Park's stare alone was enough to stop him. The musclehead, still not getting it, picks up a wooden plank. Losing his temper, he smashes it over Park's face. He keeps at it until he's had enough, then walks away with his gang. Looking bored, a mysterious man appears, curious about what Park is trying to prove. He asks if Park is just too scared to pay off his settlement. He tells Park there's no need to hold back after taking such a beating. The mysterious man already knows Park is dead broke, so he pulls out a bag and dumps a thick pile of cash onto the ground. He says it's enough to cover a lawyer's fee, but he thinks it would be more fun if Park crushed the punks first and worried about paying later. He asks if 3 minutes would be enough to take care of the lowlifes. Park listens carefully, wondering who this stranger is. The man reveals that his only goal is to ruin Chonsu Kim's life. He offers to explain more, but tells Park to deal with the punks first. The bald thug notices the money scattered on the floor. He and his minions approach Park again. The baldy starts running his mouth, but this time, Park knocks the life out of him with a single hit. The gang members freeze in shock as their leader crumples into a pathetic situation. With a menacing gaze, Park locks eyes with the mysterious man and says 4 seconds are all he needs. He rushes toward the minions, finally unleashing his strength. The thugs try to defend themselves, but he tears through them effortlessly. After getting his revenge, he's ready to talk. They move to a tall building. The wealthy man seems surprised that Park doesn't recognize him at all. He pulls out his phone and reveals his identity. He is Juno Ho, the youngest self-made tycoon in the country. Juno Ho starts boasting, but quickly reins himself in and apologizes. He explains what Chonsu Kim is up to now. Chonsu is living as a model student, setting a good example for his classmates. The gaming industry in Korea sees him as their rising star. Juno Ho scoffs at how ridiculous it is. Despite his shady past, Chonsu still runs the underground world as a side business. Meanwhile, his victim, Park, got crushed and is now stuck living like a broke nobody. Juno is certain that with enough cash, he can achieve anything. However, the reason he's holding back is that he wants to ruin the scumbag's life in his own style through a dirty, cruel, and humiliating approach. His goal is to push Chonsu and his minions all the way to the lowest point possible. Starting today, Juno is willing to cover all of the protagonist's expenses from tracking down the scumbag to making life easier for him. He's even willing to restore the gym business Park's father lost. Juno's only request is for Park to lend him his fists. That's all he asks. Park asks why Juno is after Chonsu. Juno's expression hardens. He feels the answer isn't needed now, but promises Park everything will be revealed in time. The next morning, Park strides into class with confidence, knowing that money is no longer a concern. He swings open the door and hears the Nexus lackey, threatening the students once again. The tycoon demands everyone spend $300 on his new product line. Once again, Park and Junwoo face the same enemy. Junwoo has ordered Park to eliminate the Nexus grunts first. He checks the students' purchase records and warns them that he won't be lenient this time. His friends laugh and enjoy the power trip, while some students look visibly shaken. Park steps forward, staring at him, and asks if money truly rules everything in this world. Park clenches his fists, admitting that everything people want comes from wealth. With a single blow, he knocks Thug down, leaving the class in shock. He finally accepts that money represents power. Thug recalls a time when he was fearless, confident that he could defeat anyone. But then, he met Park. The day he saw Park fight, he knew he had no chance. Park's strength was something else. He didn't seem human. He moved like a wild beast. However, his luck ran out when he faced Chonsu. The gang leader crushed Park through legal tricks, stripping him of everything and forcing him to the ground. That's when Thug realized money was truly powerful. It could fix any problem. He started his online shop, forcing his classmates to buy his junk. Once he got rich, Park was nothing but a caged animal. Thug climbed his way to the top, using money as his weapon. Now, as Park beats the life out of him, Thug can't understand why this is happening. He tries to fight back, but Park doesn't give him a chance, continuing to pummel him. Humiliated, Thug realizes the entire class is watching him get destroyed. Park drives him against the door. Dazed and angry, Thug tries to speak, but when he looks at Park's terrifying expression, he understands he's done for. In desperation, he calls out for his friend, but the Thug square, too scared of Park, pretends he sees nothing and ignores him. Hopeless, Thug pulls out his phone, threatening to use it as proof, reminding Park that he's completely broke. But Park doesn't care. He keeps kicking his face. Finally, Thug gets what he deserves. Feeling unbearable pain, he hopes he can survive this. With what little strength he has left, he stumbles to the door, trying to escape just to save his life. He attempts to calm himself and think straight, but Park follows him with deadly intent. Knowing he can't win against someone like Park, Thug remembers he has the perfect guy for the job. He rushes into the gym and desperately begs Sung to save him. Park catches up as Thug cowardly hides behind the gym rat, ordering him to stop Park at any cost. The gym rat considers the offer and demands $2 million for the job. Thug, having no other option, instantly agrees. Seong drops his weights and apologizes, explaining he needs money for his college plans. Park understands his situation and casually pulls out a stack of cash from his jacket. He advises the musclehead to avoid unnecessary strain and orders him to stay out of it. Without hesitation, Seong listens and steps aside. Thug screams in frustration, but Park grabs him and hurls him straight out of the window. Thug crashes to the ground before a teacher. The old man takes one look, spots Park, and starts yelling. Once school ends, both are summoned to the teacher's office. He reminds Park of 2 years ago. This time, the teacher won't let it slide, making it clear he won't prevent expulsion again. Thug smirks, feeling victorious as the teacher mentions Park's struggling father. The mention pushes Park over the edge, and he punches Thug. The teacher erupts, trying to stop Park, but it's useless. He continues, beating Thug senseless. Finally, the bully learns his lesson. A man enters, advising Park to stop. The teacher demands to know his identity. The figure introduces himself as Byam Gwan Kim, an associate lawyer at KR. The teacher recognizes the man, but is puzzled as to why he's here. Meanwhile, at Junwoo's office, Park questions how everything was handled so quickly. He recalls how the principal started groveling the moment he finished talking to the lawyer. The bully was expelled instantly. Junwoo smirks, calling it effortless. He says Thug paid the price for his disgusting behavior. Curious, Park asks about the principal. Junwoo casually reveals that dealing with him was a joke, using evidence to silence the old man for good. However, Junwoo makes it clear he's not finished with the principal. For now, he's using him to send the bully to juvenile detention. Once that's done, his next move is to throw the principal behind bars. Junwoo is determined no one escapes. He stops talking about himself and asks if Park is feeling any better. The protagonist is still not content. Junwoo realizes that it's still too early to expect thanks from Park and understands he should be the one expressing his gratitude. Junwoo shows his appreciation ahead of time. Thug can't hide his anger anymore. He's set on getting revenge on Park and ending his life. The next day, he starts walking and arrives at a shady location. A man peeks out from the door and asks who is there. Thug explains that he's here to check on the progress. The man greets him, calling his arrival perfect, and lets him in. Mentioning that Jin-sung is here, Thug sees a few men hitting the gym rat with bats. The leader invites him inside. Jin-sung notices Thug and finally realizes that he's behind everything. They silence the gym rat and continue hitting him with bats. The leader tells his assistant to take the trashy gym rat away as their client has arrived. Jin-sung wonders why Thug showed up in person this time. Thug reveals that he has another request. Jin-sung calls him cute and gets excited. Thug offers to pay 10 million won for it. The yellow-haired assistant is surprised, advising the leader to accept and asks Thug for more details. Jin-sung hits his minion on the head with a bat and orders him to stay quiet. He believes Thug is going after something big this time. The scumbag explains that he wants Hanjun Park dead. Jin-sung gives him a cold look and tells him to leave, saying he's not foolish enough to take on someone like Park for just 10 million. Thug explains that he's willing to pay 10 million up front, and once the job is done, he'll give another 10 million. Jin-sung gets excited and agrees to the deal. Juju enters a house surrounded by tall buildings and sealed with police tape. He announces his arrival and apologizes for not visiting more often. He brings fried chicken with him and comments on how small it is. Junu suddenly recalls his father's fried chicken and starts craving it. He remembers that the last time he had his dad's delicious fried chicken was 2 years ago. Junu's expression shifts, his anger flares as memories flood back like they happened just yesterday. He stays quiet for a moment, but then decides to walk away. He declares he won't be able to drop by anytime soon due to his packed schedule, as he's finally closing in on his objective. Junu exits the house and spots his advocate waiting for him. The man reports that Thug is making a move again. He asks for directions, but Junu reminds him that he's done playing fair. The attorney smirks and chooses to obey his boss's command. That night, Park's father receives a phone call from a major gym. He agrees to the proposal and discovers the salary is incredible. He decides to start working there the next day, and as the call ends, he yells in joy and shares the great news. He wonders how fortune suddenly smiled upon them and thinks they might even hit it big soon. Park wakes up early for his workout. His father advises him to return on time since they'll be feasting like royalty for once. Park notices the real happiness in his father's expression, which makes him feel content. As he steps out, his phone rings and he hears that Thug is scheming something. Junu reveals that he recruited some runaway teens, but they won't be much trouble. He tells Park to call if things get rough, but the main character assures him it won't be necessary. Junu is puzzled, so Park clarifies the so-called delinquents are already here. Park asks who they are as he spots a Vankun speeding toward him, aiming to take him out. Instinctively, he charges forward, trying to protect himself. He crashes to the ground and suffers a head injury. The attackers laugh at him, questioning if he enjoys pain. Jin-sung is stunned. He calls it a clever move as he watches Park rise again. Fueled by rage, Park prepares to take them all down. The goons grab their weapons, ready for a brawl. Despite being out of practice, Jin-sung realizes that Park still possesses power and speed. He believes Park might win, even while injured. Nearby apartment residents hear the ruckus and grow curious about the commotion. The gang leader smirks and orders his crew to get in the van. He looks forward to meeting Park again and drives off. But Park refuses to let it slide. He sprints after the vehicle with all his might. The thugs laugh, thinking he's out of his mind, but he proves them wrong by closing the gap. Their amusement turns to fear. Park leaps onto the van and shatters the side mirror. He seizes one of the goons, letting the van speed away. The remaining crew members ask their boss if they should return for their fallen comrade, but Jin-sung commands them to abandon him, shocking everyone. The stranded guy tries to stand. Park demands to know where they're headed. The guy jokes around, refusing to take him seriously. In response, Park smashes his face with a punch. He gives the trembling minion another chance, but he stays silent. Park starts beating him senseless. Inside a shady hideout, the criminals revel in their so-called victory. Their leader warns them to control their drinking. Meanwhile, Thug sits quietly, his face filled with irritation. He finally speaks, questioning their celebration. He expects them to be worth his investment and wonders what they'll do if Park tracks down their pathetic base. The leader acknowledges his point, but doubts Park will show up. He references an old Korean proverb about hunting a bear. Suddenly, the guy smashes his glass and reminds Thug they aren't dealing with a bear, they're facing a tiger. Jin-sung grips Thug's face and intimidates him with the jagged glass. He doubts any weapon will be enough, but recalls how their ancestors hunted tigers by unleashing packs of hounds upon them. Tigers prefer solitude, but dogs relentlessly hound them until exhaustion wins. Jin-sung grins, revealing his plan to do the same to the protagonist. He is convinced that his men will break Park's spirit and push him to the edge until he finally collapses. Suddenly, a loud bang nearly shatters the door. The entire gang freezes as they see the iron door dent inward. Jin-sung orders his minions to check, but the guy grumbles but peeks outside, only to see Park standing there, exuding a terrifying aura. They're all stunned that he tracked down their hideout so quickly, but their leader tells them to relax, since Park can't possibly break through a solid iron door. Assuming he has left after a few minutes, the minion thinks Park might have chickened out, but his expression suddenly shifts when he catches sight of an arm outside the balcony. Park leaps in and smashes through the balcony window. The leader is in disbelief. After all, they're on the third floor. Wasting no time, Park starts taking down the thugs, one after another. He single-handedly overpowers the entire group. After knocking out a few of them, he turns back to deal with the rest. As the gang faces Park, Thug is filled with fear, but he notices Jin-sung remains composed. He remembers how easily the gang took down Seong, so he convinces himself that the leader must still have some hidden tricks up his sleeve. He clings to the hope that the gang might still stand a chance against Park. Jin-sung commands his men to attack. They all rush at Park with weapons in hand, but he doesn't flinch. Grabbing one thug by the leg, he hurls him against the wall. Another charges from behind, but Park swiftly knocks him out and puts him below. The yellow-haired minion smashes a bat over Park's head, thinking he dealt some serious damage. But Park quickly proves him wrong by tossing him straight out of the third-floor window. The weakling crashes onto the ground below. Out of nowhere, a biker girl appears and walks toward the fallen minion. As his vision blurs, she asks if Park is up there fighting. He weakly confirms it, trying to say more, but she simply whacks him with her helmet and walks away. The biker girl calls Junwoo about Park's situation. Junwoo sounds worried, but she ignores his concern and rambles about adorable handbags she found online. She demands payment for any further details, irritating Junwoo, but he sends the money to keep her satisfied. First, she shares Park's location. Inside the apartment, Jin-sung stands face to face with Park, the only one left. Thug lies nearby, his face swollen and battered. The leader admits they couldn't do anything against Park. He thinks he was spared because Park needs something from him. The protagonist corrects him and grabs his throat. He simply saved the worst for last. Jin-sung realizes his fate is sealed. He swings his bat, but Park slams him onto the ground. As Park pummels his face, a teary-eyed boy steps in, begging him to stop. He calls it unfair, claiming the leader has suffered enough and can't even afford basic expenses as an orphan. Park listens, but the orphan breaks down, questioning why he deserves all this. Junwoo finally arrives, surveying the mess Park created. The orphan, trembling, asks who he is, and assumes Junwoo ordered the attack. Junwoo introduces himself and states he will cover the damages. The tearful boy finally quiets down and demands 10 million won. Junwoo surprises him by handing over 50 million instead. Lying in his broken state, Jin-sung weakly calls Park a monster, claiming no human could possess such strength. Realizing he was doomed from the start, he attempts a desperate escape by leaping from the building. He nearly succeeds, but Park grabs him and tries to pull him back up. Knowing he'll die if he stays, Jin-sung pulls out a knife to threaten Park. Without hesitation, Park lets go, sending him plummeting from the third floor. Despite his severe injuries, he somehow manages to get up and flee. Junwoo remarks on his strong survival instinct. A beaten lackey suddenly starts laughing, calling Park an idiot for getting himself entangled in a massive problem. He reminds them that Jin-sung's father is the chairman of PJ Shipping, a massive industry giant. The lackey believes his leader's father can make them disappear without a trace. Junwoo's lips curl into a wicked grin. Jin-sung finally reaches his home, where his father, Haryong, the chairman of PJ Shipping, looks at his injuries with concern. Jin-sung immediately begs his father to eliminate 2 people for him. Haryong warns that there's no turning back and asks why he wants them dead. Jin-sung recounts the situation, but his father remains unimpressed. He tells his son to maintain confidence and look people in the eye, otherwise they won't take him seriously. With a menacing glare, Haryong demands that Jin-sung beg like his life depends on it. Obediently, Jin-sung bows his head and insists he wants to see them both gone. Finally satisfied, the father instructs his men to prepare to barrels. He's going hunting for a couple of reckless brats. The scene shifts to a construction site. Junwoo scoffs at the absurdity of dragging a mercenary squad into a schoolyard grudge. Haryong sneers, calling him arrogant, and asks why he's so eager to die. Junwoo steps forward, saying no one wants to die, he just came prepared. He dares Haryong to guess his plan. The older man looks confused at first, then his expression shifts as recognition dawns. Fear creeps into Haryong's eyes as his phone rings. His body stiffens at the news that OJ affiliates have abruptly canceled their shipping deal under Junwoo's orders. Junwoo chuckles darkly, pleased that his scheme worked perfectly. Haryong's face drains of color as he drops to his knees, pleading desperately. His men are bewildered but fall silent as he commands them to keep quiet and obey. Junwoo orders him to send away his armed goons first. Without hesitation, Haryong dismisses them. Once they are gone, he resumes begging, admitting that the shipping deal is the backbone of his company. Without it, PJ Shipping is doomed. Junwoo claims he could fix everything but refuses to tarnish his company's reputation by associating with the father of a crime boss. He wants his business image to remain flawless. Haryong promises that Jin-sung will never set foot in Korea again. Jin-sung tries to interject, but his father punches him, then viciously beats him down. Junwoo watches with amusement before telling him to stop, saying it's enough, but simply sending the kid abroad feels like a reward. Instead, he has a better punishment in mind. Desperate to save his company, Haryong agrees to anything. Junwoo reminds him that Jin-sung's foolish actions cost him 50 million today, a massive sum. He demands that Jin-sung work off the debt. Haryong doubts his son could ever earn that much money, but Junwoo smirks, recalling their family business revolves around sea farming. Jin-sung figures out what's going on and finally gets that he's totally finished. He has nothing else left, so he starts fishing on his father's ocean farm boat inside a large warehouse. Park sits next to Junwoo and says he feels like a villain. Junwoo agrees he's being sneaky, but tells Park not to stress about problems that money can fix. He doesn't want his friend getting hurt for silly reasons. Park tries to act cool, but the girl from before shows up and sees the marks on his neck. Junwoo explains she's their new helper who wants to bring down Nexus. She's a famous star working with them. The girl feels shy hearing that title. Her name is Seo Yeon Choi, and she's shocked because she thought Park would look rough after hearing stories. She says he looks sharp, but Junwoo tells her not to get close. She shows him her middle finger and jokes. She picked the truck driver instead. Junwoo suddenly remembers how silly she acted on their last call. She doesn't care and tells him to get back to the topic. Junwoo feels a bit annoyed but stays calm and explains they're planning what to do next. She thinks they don't need any plans because Park can beat anyone without help. He tells her Nexus is too strong now and Park alone can't handle such a big group. He starts by talking about their fighting team. He drops a file on the table and says someone may join them soon. Park reads the name of the school and guesses it's Dong-yeon Kim. Junwoo says he's right and reminds him that it's the same guy who once stood up to Nexus with Park. Park thinks back, and Junwoo already knows that the boy hurt his knee in their first fight, and that ended everything for him. Junwoo says he still needs the boy even if it's selfish. Park says nothing, but Junwoo tells him to relax because they're all working together. He thinks this is a great chance for Park to fix things with his old buddy and also clean up the Nexus-filled school. At Dongyeon High, the gang is having a talk, and one says the thug got sent to juvenile. The bullying and forced buying were the reasons, so they can't count on him anymore. They all laugh at the weak guy, but one of them says they should at least hurt the person who beat him since Thug was still part of their team. The spy says the one who did it was Hanjun Park, the top fighter in high school. Yangchul is shocked to hear that name. They recall that Park promised to stay quiet. While they're talking, a kid runs in and shouts that Hanjun Park moved to their school. The whole crew, including Yangchul, is surprised. In the new class, Park stands up and says he's there to take everyone down. The class goes silent. The teacher laughs and tells him where to sit. Park walks over and takes a seat next to and Joe. The guy starts chatting and says someone warned him not to fight Park, but he still wants to try. He tells Park he only moved here last year and has heard many stories about him. He just wants to see if Park is really that strong. He asks for a fair fight, but Park doesn't answer. The guy gets mad and slaps Park to make it clear. Park smashes his face with one hit, shocking the whole class. At the batting spot, Choi still thinks it was a bad choice to add Dongyeon to their crew. She says she knows stronger guys for this mission and believes Junwoo only picked Park's buddy because of his leg problem. Junwoo says that's not true and explains Dongyeon is probably the toughest person he knows. People don't take him seriously because he's small, but they miss how strong his heart is. He used that same fire to fight Nexus before. Junwoo says people with that kind of fire can break, but they never give up. Choi still thinks he's no help with a broken leg. Junwoo says the boy might lose his strength, but he'll gain something new instead. She says nothing and jokes he should write stories instead. At school, Park walks through the hallway with bullies everywhere. He finally finds his old buddy. A guy shows up and kicks Dongjeon for taking more than 5 minutes to bring snacks. He says his money was wasted and starts hitting him hard. The other bullies say hitting doesn't work anymore, but this one thinks if he scares Dongjeon more, he'll move quicker. So, he keeps punching Park's old buddy. Park watches it all with a cold look. Scene shift to Juna's office. Choi finally agrees to let Dongyeon join their group, but she still thinks Park isn't the kind of guy to patch things up with an old buddy. She says it would be easier if they just used cash, but Junwoo explains that he's not someone who worries about wealth. He reminds her that Dongyeon went against Nexus only because Hanjun did. That was the only reason. Junwoo finds that kind of thinking silly, but he now knows that if a friend has a problem, it becomes his too. Dongyeon getting hurt. That's just who Park really is. At school, Dongyeon finally gets a moment to rest and takes a seat. Park walks over and says hello. Dongyeon already knows why Park came to this school. He says it doesn't make sense since the group has become very strong. They have not just fighters but money too, so the fight is already lost. Park clearly says he's going to win this time. Dongyeon thinks that's a joke, saying his strong will didn't stop him from becoming a loser before. Park stays quiet but tells him to just wait and see. The leader watches them from the school building and calls it weak to see Park team up with Dongyeon. He tells his team to get ready to crush him. At the hospital, the doctor is glad that Dongyeon is not pushing himself, but he warns that if he waits too long, he might not be able to move right ever again. He tells him to go to a surgeon, even if it costs a lot. Dongyeon says nothing, and as he walks out, Jongchul steps in and asks what the doctor said. Dongyeon is confused about why he's here. Jongchul says he just came to see how the old number one is doing. He also says he saw Dongyeon meeting Park secretly and wanted to know if he was feeling better. He says he's planning to hurt Park's buddy again, but Dongyeon tells him no one can beat him alone if he's back to normal. Dongyeon gets angry and kicks him. The guy smiles and says he's not a sidekick anymore and won't let anything slide. Gyang-chul talks about what happened before and says that being loyal almost ruined Dong-gyan. Dong-gyan says Gyang-chul turned his back on them and joined that useless group. He says that's messed up, but Gyang-chul just laughs and says he can think what he wants. He has no interest in being a soft loyal guy and doesn't believe Dong-yeon can stay loyal this time either. Back at school, Park stays quiet as an announcement begins. Gyang-gil speaks and tells the whole school that Hanjun Park, the one who fought Nexus 2 years ago, is now here to end it. He calls him out and tells him to get ready. Everyone in the class stands up and starts getting ready to fight. Gyang-chul says he's no good in a one-on-one match, but has no plans to be fair. A big group of students marches toward Park's room with sticks in their hands. The leader tells his men to get set, saying they're going to give Park a lesson. A few students fly out of the class badly hurt. The others in the hall panic and learn Park has already beaten them all. They can't believe the whole class is already down. Park steps out wearing a scary look and tells everyone to come and hit him. The giant group of students rushes at the same time, but Park meets them all without fear as he starts beating up the entire crew. Dong-yen keeps ignoring it all and holds back. The battle carries on. The full school tries to stop the main character, but he can handle them all on his own. The guys call him nuts and finally see he meant it when he said he'd break them. They try trapping him. Park fights back but ends up being caught. Some boys hold him down and start hitting him, but he breaks free in just a few seconds. Park crushes everyone nearby. He keeps hitting them hard and slowly knocks out the whole crowd. Park barely stays on his feet, and as he walks inside, more people are waiting. They're upset to see he's already tired because the main event hasn't even begun. They all rush at the worn-out tiger, while Dong-yan stays in his class and tries to act like nothing's happening. He doesn't think Park can win, so he believes it's a waste. Choi shows up and thinks Park might be at his breaking point. She tries making Dong-yan feel bad for doing nothing. The girl says she works with Park. Dong-yan feels guilty, but says he's not strong enough. She smiles and says she already knows. She explains the main guy always guessed it would turn out like this. Even though they told him to escape, he didn't. She tells Dong-yan the reason Park is still fighting is to show something to him. The guy suddenly remembers what his buddy said and falls quiet. She says he won't feel sorry, making Dong-yan rethink his choice. In the hall, Park finishes fighting off everyone. He's exhausted after battling such a big group, but Gang Cho shows up with more fighters. He claps for Park and says he's really strong, but doesn't think he can keep going against the 10 best students in the school. Gang Cho gives a warning, but our guy stays focused and gets ready to fight again. The fighters run at him, but just before a punch lands, Dong-yan smacks one of them with a broom and asks Park to stop always being the center of attention. The bullies call him a dirty mouse, but Gyang-chul tells them to relax since they can just beat both of them. They all start going for Dong-yan too, but he knocks one down nicely. Another tries to grab him, but even though it hurts, he beats the guy and goes on. Park keeps swinging as well, and now, together, they are impossible to beat. The others see they're in big trouble and ask why their enemies are so tough. As they take on everyone, the main guy says sorry. Dong-yan says he used to dislike Park for what happened, but he just needed someone to blame. Park grins when he hears that. The boss jumps in to spoil the moment and tries hitting both of them, but they move out of the way. Dong-yan says he wants to take care of the guy himself. Park and his friend run toward a room. He calls them weaklings and goes after them, but Park grabs him and throws him inside. Dong-yan locks the door from within, so no one else can join the fight. Gyang-chul says it's silly. Dong-yan says maybe, for someone who's never had a buddy. The man gets mad and runs forward, but Dong-yan punches him hard and pushes him back. Gyang-chul keeps going and grabs Dong-yan's feet. He lifts him and throws him into the glass door. Smashing it, he breaks Dong-yan's weapon and thinks he's done for. Dong-yan takes off his shirt and wraps it around his hand. Gyang-chul laughs, but as they trade hits, Dong-yan uses the shirt to grab the bad guy's face and slam him to the floor. He starts punching him, but Gyang-chul holds his leg and pulls him down too. He finally breaks free. Gyang-chul shows that he's not weak anymore and grabs Dong-yan's hurt leg. The guy yells and lets him go. As the boss stands up, he breathes heavy and promises to get even one day. Dong-yan tells him to quit, which shocks Gyang-chul since he thought the guy had finally figured things out. Park's buddy stands up, though he's in pain, but Gyang-chul starts punching him hard until he finally falls down. Gyang-chul starts feeling weak and tries walking away, but Dong-yan tells him to stay and begins picking up the broken glass pieces. Gyang-chul gets upset and charges without thinking. Park's buddy uses the chance to toss the glass and hit the guy with an uppercut. He keeps smashing Gyang-chul. The man doesn't think anyone would get it, but still says he will feel ashamed in front of Park if he doesn't win. Gyang-chul slowly starts losing his sight. After being punched again and again, Dong-yan thinks about all the things he faced and gives the final final hit to knock out the muscle man. His leg hurts badly, but Dong-yan pays no attention and steps out to see his friend has also won. Park hugs his hurt buddy and laughs as they both exit the school. The head of the board shows up and Dong-yan gets surprised when he sees the school. The man finds out Park caused all of it. He looks at the destroyed school and can't believe all of this was over just one person. He chuckles and tells his men to bring him more people as he comes to meet the guy. Min explains they usually don't get involved in student fights but are happy to deal with adult matters themselves. Dong-yan figures out who was behind Park, but still says it's unfair since he lives in a place with laws. He says it's unfair, but Min drops several suitcases and thinks the man will be pleased. Dong-yan gives a sly grin. He tells his men to check and makes it clear that only the yellow piles can please him now. One worker opens it and they find just a few school books inside. Dong wonders what he's seeing, so Min tells him to check the titles. He finds proof of his gang hiring DY students, and the title also shows proof of DY stealing public money, cheating on taxes, and even more. Min warns him to stay away, or else he's ready to go deeper. Dong gets furious and threatens him, saying he should remember who is stronger right now. He wonders why Min still looks so calm. The guy with glasses tells him even if Dong dies, KR and DY fighting would not end well for him and says adding a death threat makes it enough to start a full war. Dong holds back and tells his men to lower their weapons. He goes right to business and asks what Min wants. The man with glasses says he wants the whole school, Shakendong, at the hospital. Choi finds it crazy that the main guy fought the whole school and still made it. Park tries to answer, but the doctor steps in and says he doesn't know how the man is still fine. But he smiles and tells them the surgery was a big success. The doctor feels confident Dong-yan will heal from this. Park starts smiling when he heard the good news. Somewhere, at a nice place, Juna waits beside a lady and thanks Chonsu Kim for making time. She starts asking him questions. Juna reads the story about the school and smiles proudly. He hears the lady leave after finishing the interview. Chansu sees Junu and quickly figures out why his meeting was cancelled. He guesses Junu set up the magazine article. Chansu is shocked an important person like Junu came looking for him. He feels honored, but Junu smirks and tells him to stop the nice talk. He sits down and reminds Chansu who he is. The boss grins and says he remembers, but that things are not the same anymore. He congratulates Junu for reaching the top, but says he's just a gamer now. Chansu shows fake respect, but Junu doesn't fall for it. He makes it clear he won't forgive so icily. Junu grins darkly. He says he finished off Dong-yan high, but Chansu stays cool and walks away, feeling there's nothing left to say. He offers a handshake, but Junu doesn't react or show any care. Junu hopes he keeps up that fake smile next time they meet. Chansu smiles again, but as he steps outside the restaurant, his real face shows anger. Junu feels calmer. He had worried he might still care about old feelings and thought he might get scared. But now he knows he worried for no reason because Chonu's face still makes him mad. Inside a vehicle, Chansu's driver asks if he will take action. The man calls the school battle an invitation and says he surely will strike back. Chansu thinks this fight will be the biggest one ever in Korea's history. Inside a fancy place, Tae-soo Choi steps into a room filled with men. He asks why he was told to come for an emergency meeting. Even though the others are also annoyed about it, Changgu feels they shouldn't act so upset. As every boss gathers for the important meeting, Tae-soo hears they'll be talking about Hanjun Park. He believed the man had stayed quiet after his life was ruined by the crew, and the others think the same way. Dong Chi-han asks who they're speaking about. Since he doesn't know what's going on, Manganli laughs at his confusion, but thinks it's normal for a weak newbie like him. The man makes fun of him, then he starts saying that Park is a big problem for the whole crew. He once controlled a tiny area, and Nexus ruled the land around it, and a few nearby parts. But Park refused to give up his place, which was shameful for the crew. The bigger problem was that more and more folks got encouraged after hearing about Park, so Nexus had to fight extra enemies. The group gave everything to crush anyone who stopped them, but it didn't go smoothly, which is the reason they're all here. He says something no one saw coming took place. They went against Park with their full power, but still lost every time. Soon Nexus was almost broken apart because of one man. Dong Cheong thinks that's hard to believe, Won Gil says. He'll get it after seeing the man himself. He calls Park a real monster. Dong Cheong starts laughing and calls everyone weak since they lost to one person. The bosses get angry, and Mon-gil tells him to shut his mouth, or he'll get reminded where he stands. Jihak stops the guy and says Dong Qian's words make sense. Tae-soo agrees, but thinks it's all in the past. He feels like they're going too far. But Chang Yu tells them to be careful. He knows it might not matter to them, but to a man like Park, their mistake could turn into a big chance. Finally, Chang-soo walks in and says hello to everyone. He says sorry for the quick call and says he'll take them to dinner later. Chang-soo says the main guy has made his move, so a deadly fight can't be avoided. He already made his choice but wanted to have it real talk for something this big. Tae-soo is okay with his choice. It says there's no need for a fight. He thinks they're losing it over a dumb school. Chang-soo's face scares the guy, so he goes quiet right away. He asks if he's really going too far, but Insunam says his choice is right. He's ready to deal with it himself. Chansu grins and asks if he's sure about that. He says cash won't help now, since their rival has strong support this time, so he'll need to get ready. Insu touches the mark on his cheek and coldly says he's been ready since the day he got that mark. Chansu starts smiling and says he'll let him take care of it. He checks if anyone is against the idea, but all the bosses agree. Dongchian also feels hyped up since Park smashed them last time. Chansu gives the Inchim squad bosses the task and ends the meeting. Insu starts laughing in a scary way since he finally gets his chance to hit back. During the night, a bunch of bikers meet up at a secret spot. Insu says their moment to crush Hanjun Park is finally here. A fat gross biker steps up and asks his leader if he can finally go in to end that trash. Later, Junu takes Park to the same burned down home and thinks it's wrong that our boy knows nothing about his history, how he got his riches, and why he's so mad at Chansu. He asks Park to come inside and says he's ready to tell him everything. As they both sit down, Junu tells him that the money he has now actually belongs to the real owner of the home. He talks about what happened 2 years back and begins with a story about his childhood buddy named Hyok, who was super close to Junu, a friend he treated like family. As they both sat together in his buddy's house, the man showed Junu that he made a stock trading program AI tool that could study key details and make a plan to recover as well. Junu found out it could guess the market just by checking the results. He was into Hyak's idea, but then Park lost to Nexus and it flipped everything. The group started taking over his area, and Chansu's men started bothering Junu, but he's the kind who won't bow to small bullies, so he stood up with all his strength. Hyok was the same, so both of them took on the group, even though they were bad at fighting. Junu thought the gang might leave them alone after getting bored, but he was way off. Since the crew burned his buddy's home as payback, he went after the men about it, but they said his friend was unlucky and made him quiet forever. He felt powerless, and the fire inside slowly started to go out. He saw no light in life and made up his mind to just end it all. He thought about removing himself from the world, so he began with his buddy's computer. He chose to shut down the account, but his face suddenly changed when he saw how far the account had come. He couldn't believe it at first, but even the cash didn't excite him because he just didn't care anymore. He wished his friend could see what his creation had become. Junu felt deep rage, but that emotion gave him a purpose to keep going. It was his buddy's money, so he planned to use it to ruin Chansu and his team. Park wonders why Junu is being so open, and Junu responds clearly, saying he's just trying to mess with the main guy's head, so he keeps running after Nexus. Later that evening, Junu rings up Choi and says he told Park his lame story. She laughs and asks if he's trying to make a pal. Junu gets shy and tells her to stop talking. Choi becomes serious and reminds him the Inchin squad creeps are after him now. She hopes he stays careful since his enemies are all brawn and no brain. Junu agrees as he sees his car is boxed in. He knows it's them since only fools would pull such junk in the middle of traffic. The motor guys splash paint to trap the car. The driver gets annoyed, so he tells Junu to hold on tight while he tries to escape. Choi hears the mess and asks what's going on. Junu blacks out after hitting his head in the surprise attack. Insu gets a call from Choi and thinks she's his girl. He tells her to let Park know he's waiting at the JQ distribution center with a smug tone. She tries to warn him, but the rude guy ends the call, leaving her upset for being laughed at. Meanwhile, Park walks back to his place thinking about what Junu said. He calls it over the top since he never planned to quit. Choi shows up on her bike and tells him to jump on. She quickly tells him what's going on. Junu wakes up at the distribution center and sees he's circled by Inchin thugs. The big guy, number 2 in the group, sees Junu is awake. He thinks about hitting him again, but Insu stops him, saying they're just using him to draw Park in. Junu figures out who they are and starts laughing hard. He mocks them for boldly taking the head of a top business without thinking. He jokes about how bad their plan is and even says he might hire them for it. Then Junu tells Insu to look at himself. He reminds the creep that they're the weakest of the bunch and clearly remembers Insu begging on his knees and smiling at Park for mercy just 2 years back. Junu doubts they can face Park at all. The big guy gets mad, but Insu stops him and steps up to take care of things. Insu thinks Junu knows a bit about his group, but is sure he doesn't know that only one loser kneeled, not the whole crew. Junu smirks and tells him to be nice to his brother, since he kneeled down to protect Insu's sorry self. The fat thug gets angrier and warns Junu to stop talking trash, but Junu keeps going with a smug voice. The thug loses control and tries to punch Junu, but a helper walks in and tells Insu that Park is getting close. Insu grins wickedly and tells Banjong to keep his strength for the real problem. Junu claps for Park's good timing. Banjong slams Junu against the wall and walks toward the door in anger. Junu figures out the fool can't wait. Insu doesn't care about Park and still feels sure of himself since the past boss gave up, not him. He tells Junwoo to just watch because the crew is very different now. Choi and Park get followed by a bunch of riders. She tries to lose them but gets mad when they won't stop. Park tells her they've stopped coming. The girl feels puzzled, but Park tells her to keep her eyes forward. Choi hits the brakes fast as they see Bunjung and his team standing in the way. The big guy walks up to the main guy but holds back and tells them to walk behind him. He wants to crush him right there, but his crew has certain ways. Park walks behind the big guy, going toward the distribution center. Choi wonders why Bunjung looks massive. She starts making fun of him, but he acts like she's not there. She keeps joking about his large body until he snaps and tells her to be quiet. She can't stop being curious and wants to ask him something. She brings up his soft boss who begged and said he'd never fight again. She playfully asks why they're still chasing Park. The guy snaps and tries to hit her, but Park steps up and says she's right. Bunjung finally stops holding back and forgets the orders. He walks up to beat Park badly, but the hero stays calm. Bunjung was a super strong kid who got even bigger as he grew up. People call him the male beast, but for the first time, he flies through the air as the hero kicks him with one blow. The big guy falls face first, and his team gets shocked, readying themselves. The hero walks into the distribution center proudly with Choi. The crew now knows they're in serious danger, so they prepare to attack together. Choi laughs at them for teaming up. Junwoo yells at the hero to hurry and untie him since his legs have lost feeling. Insu takes off his coat and stretches since he wants to deal with Park by himself. He greets the guy with a proud smirk. Park sees that he's Mansu's sibling. Insu gets focused and throws a punch. Even without touching him, Park's cheek starts to bleed. Insu explains how much he's wanted this match. He doesn't wait and swings again. Park tries to move aside but still gets hit, which surprises him. Insu says today is the day he makes up for the shame his group went through 2 years ago. Park ignores his talk and begins to strike, but his moves don't land. Insu dodges every hit with ease. Park does his best to stand firm against the guy, but Insu lands a clean hit on his face and makes fun of him for moving slow. The main guy steps back and feels annoyed, but Insu pushes him to keep going because he still has a lot of anger to release. Insu tells him to get up with a serious look. After the old boss got beaten badly, Insu didn't rest at all and trained without stopping from the shame he felt. He felt terrible after hearing his brother, the best fighter in Inshan, had bowed to Park without even trying to fight. Insu gave up boxing because he wanted to become a real brawler. After that, he put himself through pain and took down 27 schools and many groups just to become strong enough to face the main guy. He feels let down and wonders why Park can't even stay strong now. He's still upset about the shame they went through 2 years back. He keeps beating up Park and starts pushing him into a corner, which surprises Choi. She isn't sure he can win this match. Junwoo tells her to wait. He studied a lot before choosing Park and was shocked to find out Park had no fighting background besides gym workouts. The main guy took on Nexus using only raw power and quick thinking. Junwoo believes Park will win when he figures out Insu's moves, but the real problem is that Insu already knows this. As he keeps beating up Park, Junwoo understands that bare fists can cause serious harm. A trained boxer can even rip skin with a hit. Junwoo thinks Insu is using his strength to wear Park down slowly and plans to end it with one strong hit. The main guy gathers his power and tries to hit back, but Insu shuts him down and tells him to fight like a true man. Insu goes in again, but Park finally slips past the attack and holds his legs. Insu calls him dumb for thinking crazy. Park tries to push his weight on Insu to knock him over, but Insu sees it and laughs since he's not just a regular boxer. He knees Park and tells everyone he fights on the streets. He grabs Park and tosses him into some crates. The group gets excited and thinks they've already won, but Insu stands and gets into his pose again. He calls that round 1 and doesn't think Park will go down that easy. He's sure the damage will mess with Park's vision and balance. Insu says he's got this and steps up to land a big blow, but Park dodges it, making Junwoo smile. He finally figures things out and smashes Insu with a strong punch. Insu can't believe Park figured him out. He tries to attack again, but Park crushes his face with another hit and keeps hitting him hard. Junwoo knows Insu is super quick, but he says Park is like a wild animal and doesn't think anyone can beat him just by being fast. Choi still can't figure out why Park kept taking punches without trying to move away. Junwoo tells her that Park was using his body to understand how his enemy fights. The main guy managed to learn all about how Insu throws punches. Insu just barely avoids Park's kick and gets annoyed since Park can now guess all his actions. Insu gets hit hard in the face by Park and feels upset, wondering why he went so hard in training just to get exposed that quick. He sees now that the main guy is a real smart fighter. Still, he doesn't stop and dodges Park's next move to try smashing him for good. Insu keeps throwing quick hits to cause more pain. He moves faster and dares Park to stay on his level. Junwoo starts grinning and calls it a finished game as he watches. Park destroys Insu. The main guy calls him slow and finishes him with a strong upper hit. The bad guy suddenly remembers how his brother wanted to guard the people close to him, even if it meant throwing away his pride. He thought the saddest man was the one who failed to protect his people. Park keeps beating Insu, but he refuses to quit and suddenly remembers his brother begging in front of Park. He called it out back then and laughed at his weak brother for bowing. Insu stepped up to protect Incheon's name on his own, but was beaten badly. Right now, Insu still stands firmly. His group starts worrying, and one of them asks why Banjong is just standing there. Insu starts to black out and finally sees why his brother got on his knees. He now gets it. No normal man can fight someone like Park. He feels scared and wants to run, but he knows the lives of his whole crew rest on him. Banjong and the others rush at Park to bring him down. The big guy tells everyone to smash Park and says he's ready to take the blame. But Insu yells at them to stop. He drops to the ground and admits Park won. Insu used to feel small when the boss he once respected dropped to his knees and begged. But now he understands how hard it must have been for his brother to do that with no one by his side. He realizes it wasn't Park who crushed his brother, but his own group. Banjong gets angry and tells his leader to stand up. They all blame him for kneeling and yell at him to rise again. But Insu says he lost. Junwoo steps up and tells the group to use their heads. He says Insu is doing this to keep their sorry lives safe. He wonders if they really think it's a win if they all team up on Park. He calls them idiots and tells them real men are winners when they can defend those they care about. The group starts feeling guilty. Junwoo tells Insu to lift his head. He spits in his hand and punches Insu for capturing him. Junwoo feels pleased and says Insu should be thankful he didn't send them all to prison. He says they're even now and brings up the huge bill their gang owes Nexus. He knows they also need to pay back the money the past boss took from that dirty group to help their own families. Junwoo shocks them by saying he cleared all the money. They're confused by what he means as he walks away. Insu asks why he's being so generous. Junwoo gives a selfish reason but says it's not a free gift. He tells them to look at their phones and says he paid their full school fees. He hopes they study with all their strength and one day work super hard to pay him back. He knows they've been doing honest work to cover the money. Junwoo is aware they're giving it their all. He tells them the only reason he did this is because of the heart Insu showed through all the pain. Choi jokes that he's being too kind. He gets shy and tells her to shut it. Insu bows and thanks him. He promises to pay back every single coin one day. Junwoo tells him to keep quiet and starts to walk away. Insu says sorry to his gang and turns around to bow, saying he's ruined their name again. He bravely promises they won't be shamed like this ever again and says from now on, they have no link to Nexus. He asks if they will follow him to live a better life. The crew all shout that they will. The next morning, Junwoo cheers his crew for settling the issue with Incheon. Park asks, what's up with Choi? She gets 40 million from Junwoo and starts laughing because she feels awesome. She says she hopes Junwoo gets taken away every day. Junwoo feels hurt, but she says sorry and explains she just can't stop feeling happy. Choi sees that the main guy has really wide shoulders. She thinks he would look great in nicer clothes and with a playful grin, asks if he's free this weekend. Choi invites Park to come shopping with her at the shopping center. Choi bursts into laughter while forcing the main guy to try on a silly outfit. Seeing his annoyed face, she chooses something different for him. Choi then makes him wear clothes like a broken-down rock singer. She snaps a photo but sees his scary look and quickly stops. Junwoo tells her to calm down and act right. Choi agrees to stop messing around and asks the main guy to try on something simple. He comes back dressed and looks really cool. Choi starts blushing but hides it and begins choosing new outfits. A few guys spot Choi and remember she's that Insta girl they saw before. The blonde one decides to go talk to her and his buddies think he has no shot. But the guy says she's with these losers, so she must not have high taste. He wants to show her what a real man is like. He says online stars are just fake dreams. His friend begins praising him, so the guy walks over to Choi confidently and tries to flirt. He asks her to go out with him, but she asks who he even is. The dumb blonde ignores the sign and keeps trying to talk, placing his hand on her shoulder. Choi loses her cool, slaps him, and tells him to back off. She says she already heard his stupid words before. She embarrasses him in front of others, but he can't take the no and goes to hit her to teach her a lesson. The main guy jumps in and beats him badly. The blonde's friend shows up, but Park has no pity and hits him too. The dude starts crying and begs Park to let him go. Choi cheers Park on and enjoys watching the action. A store worker arrives and warns them she'll call the cops if they don't stop. Choi says they'll stop, but the worker says they also need to pay for the mess. Park and Choi both turn and stare at Junwoo to pay. He gets annoyed, but tries not to explode. At a casino, Taesu finds out Incheon got beaten by Park. He says he wasn't expecting much from those losers. He gives Junwoo credit for being bold after learning he paid off Incheon's bills. Taesu plays cards with a woman who looks upset. He tells his boss not to worry about Park because they're ready to fight now. Taisu ends the call and focuses on the game. He gives a wicked grin and tells the woman to check her card. She nervously flips it and sees she lost again. Taisu tells her she hit the max debt of 120 million after this round. He calls it a nice game and tells his team to take her away to start a new life. She begs them to stop, and after crying a little, the lady agrees to something. Junwoo stops walking and hears her say she's ready to do what he wants. He grins darkly and asks if she's really okay doing this to someone close to her. The woman has no choice and says yes. He gives her choice photos and hopes she doesn't change her mind. At the hospital, a nurse catches Dongyan doing leg presses. She makes him stop right away since he's not fully healed yet. Junwoo says hi and asks if he's healing all right. Dongyan thanks him and promises to repay every last bit, but Junwoo tells him to relax and even lets Dongyan pick for himself. The man is grateful but clearly says he will beat Nexus for sure. He's doing it just for his own reasons. Junwoo smirks and hopes he gets well soon. In a big building, Junwoo fills Park in about what happened. The main guy feels pleased. Junwoo gets back to work and believes everything is going just like they planned. He thinks their next enemy is the one who gave money to Incheon, that Taisu and his Jeongi group. Junwoo doubts Park knows the man, so he explains that Taisu is the money brain behind the crew, a greedy man who earns cash through shady lending. Junwoo wants to focus on breaking his group first. Junwoo wants Park to meet someone, so they head to a random storage place. Junwoo thanks the person for working with them and talks to a nervous oddball. The guy wants protection after this. After some talk, he says Taisu is like a devil. He begins telling his past and says people used to say nice things about him every day. His pals thought he could become a big online star, and he liked hearing it because he also wanted that. But even after trying really hard, the truth was he couldn't get known until one day when he got invited to a party thrown by famous people with thousands of fans. He believed it was a lucky chance sent by the heavens. So he started going to their parties. The famous people he met helped him, and after a few days, his followers finally went up. He began feeling really happy, but it didn't last long because the new popular friends started acting differently. He was dragged into a casino by them, and even though he warned them, they continued betting money. Later, they kicked him out of their group too. It didn't take much time for his fans to fall again, and no matter how much he tried, he couldn't bring them back. He got very sad and went to find his old group again, hoping to get back his fans. He also began gambling and quickly became hooked, losing all his things. He knew he was finished if he didn't win it back. That's when he ran into Taisu Choi. The man gave him a big loan, and he took it without thinking, since he was really dumb. Now he's stuck trying to return the money. What makes him mad is knowing Taisu is the same person who got him into this terrible habit. He understands it was his mistake, which is why he's going crazy. He feels bad about what he did in the past. Junwoo stands up, looking serious, and tells the man it's not his fault. Those bad people took advantage of his wishes. Junwoo promises they'll break Taisu soon. The next morning, the green-haired guy storms into the casino and tells the workers to give him chips. He remembers Junwoo telling him to go into one of Nexus's casinos with Park and play a bit. The man gets annoyed, thinking he wouldn't be part of this, but Junwoo expected just that. He bravely says he'll shut down every casino owned by Nexus, which surprises the green-haired guy. The casino staff ask what he can bring to the table. He recalls Junwoo saying he'd be safe, so he proudly shows a bag full of money. Junwoo let him use his cash to gamble, and he can even keep the prize if he wins. The green-haired guy tells the workers to get him the chips. They believe he's silly, but take him to a table anyway. That morning, he didn't understand how the idea would succeed, so Junwoo explained that he would win it all and make them lose every coin. Junwoo had full trust in a method that could win every bet. Normally, the ones running the games lose a few rounds, but from what Junwoo had seen, Nexus's casinos were made to help the house win, always, which means they were cheating somehow. The green-haired guy already guessed that, but didn't know how to win against it. Junwoo gave him a way to use their trick to beat them. Inside the casino, the man puts in all his money, surprising the game runner. The dealer agrees to play and tries to cheat. Park screams that he saw it happen and smashes the glass to get inside. The dealer tells him to shut up, but Park jumps on him and smashes his face with one punch. The green-haired guy believes he won since the house cheated, so he thinks the prize belongs to him. But Junwoo already knew the place wouldn't pay up without trouble. Some men show up to clean up the mess. They threaten the green-haired guy, but Park takes them down. They rush him, but Park easily knocks them out and teaches them a lesson. The green-haired guy starts a second round, and Park stays close to catch the next cheat. He beats the other dealer when he catches him doing it. Junwoo knows they're using force this time but thinks it's fair because they're not tricking anyone. At Taisu's main office, a worker updates him, which makes him mad. He admits Junwoo is playing a smart game. Sitting with Choi, she feels let down by her friend, even though the girl tries saying sorry. Taisu also says sorry for being rude and hopes she'll listen, since he has a good offer. Choi becomes interested, So the man goes on and asks for info about Junu's ideas. He says he'll pay her 3 times more than Junu. The girl agrees right away and accepts the deal, which surprises the man. She gives him the bank number, but he's still careful and says if she lies, he won't forgive her. She laughs and says she's not good at lying anyway. Choi gets the money and starts talking about what they're hiding. Choi starts counting down. Confusing Taisu, she says the plan to ruin his main office is already going, shocking him once more. The door flies open and Park walks in like a monster. The green-haired guy walks in behind him for his payback. The men run at Park to fight, but he takes them all down easily. Taisu begins to feel hopeless and knows no trick he uses will ever help him beat someone like that. Taisu's top fighters ask if it's okay to kill. He allows it, so they grin and tear off their tops to get ready for a real battle. Taisu agrees, he's helpless now and can't change anything about it. He begins running as quickly as possible, knowing the guards he paid for are just puppets without real power. The two are taken down by Park. Taisu tries to calm himself, fully aware he doesn't have strength, but he's always been able to fix things with cash and status. He still believes he can beat Park. The hero finishes clearing the whole building. Choi sadly tells him that the coward escaped. The following day, Junu finds out the coward got away. He compliments Park and tells him to stay alert. Junu gets a little annoyed because he knows things won't be simple. He believes Taisu will come back with a poor plan. Somewhere in a dark place, one of Taisu's men learns he ran away. He calls it a smart move, saying only a fool would fight such a monster. His helper gives an order and promises the boss he'll handle it. Taisu tells him to post it, so the man adds a 2 billion reward for Park. Taisu's real control and power actually come from internet betting. He has a base of 87,000 people. Guys across the country see the reward, but a few understand it's risky work if the prize is that big. Taisu guessed people might hesitate because of this, so he made a new system that gives smaller gifts to teens. Start leaving school to chase Park for the money. Many begin trying to take Park's life. Taisu's smart plan begins working. While walking home, Park gets a call from a girl who says sorry and makes an excuse. Park doesn't pay much attention, but the sneaky girl pulls a blade and tries to hurt him from behind. Park sees through her easily. He notices she isn't part of Nexus. The girl looks shocked and talks about payment. A second person with a stick comes at him, but Park stops him and uses the stick to hit his head. He tells the girl to say the truth. She gets scared and tells him there's an event on the app she uses. Park finds out Taisu Choi is the one behind it. He gets angry, but notices regular folks walking toward him. Taisu's worker begins getting updates. He finds out people are giving their best. At first, the man wasn't sure about Taisu's reward plan, but now he says it's doing great. Taisu understands he might lose everything because of it, but he's already hoping for something good. He says he picked betting because it ruins selfish people. If a man with money was given the same cash, he'd laugh at Taisu, but people who had their lives broken because of gambling will never wait. These kinds of people are ready to lose their minds for cash. Park pushes through the line of reward chasers. He sees a kid and moves back to avoid a car rushing in and getting stuck, but the attackers still find ways to hit him. But Park beats them and answers Junu's call, who checks if Park's alright. He heard about the mess, so he's sending help. But the tough hero says no and tells him to just find Taisu's place, he'll do the rest. Junu thinks he's crazy, so he tells his team to step in. Park fights his attackers one after the other. A man tries to hurt him to pay his girl's hospital costs, but Park hits his head right away and climbs up to hold something. He runs off again. Even though everyone jumped him, the hero escapes by rushing into a nearby shop. But he gets surprised to see a large group of men inside. He quickly gets that it's a trap, which means they're part of Nexus.